Things producers of I Love Lucy hid from fans. I Love Lucy is a classic television show that's been beloved by audiences for decades. The show, which aired from 1951 to 1957, followed the antics of Lucy Ricardo, a wacky housewife, and her husband Ricky, a Cuban-American bandleader. Despite its widespread popularity, there were a few things producers of I Love Lucy hid from fans. One of the most surprising secrets, and of course something that the producer of I Love Lucy didn't want us to see, is that the show was not actually filmed in front of a live audience. While it may have looked like it was filmed in front of a live audience, the show was actually filmed with multiple cameras in a studio. The laughter and applause you hear during the show were actually added in post-production. This allowed for more flexibility in the editing process and allowed the show to be filmed in front of a live audience without the need for retakes. Another hidden secret about I Love Lucy is that the iconic opening sequence was not filmed until the second season. The show originally had a different opening sequence that featured the cast walking into a theater and taking their seats. The new opening sequence, which featured the famous I Love Lucy theme song and a shot of the cast in the Ricardo apartment, was introduced in the second season and has become one of the most iconic opening sequences in television history. The on-screen love story between Lucille and Desi Arnaz wasn't real. Despite the fact that I Love Lucy was a beloved and successful show, the relationship between its two stars, Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, was often tumultuous. The couple famously divorced in 1960, but worked on I Love Lucy until it ended in 1957. Despite their personal issues, the two were able to maintain a professional relationship and deliver excellent performance on the show. The show was supposed to be Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz show. I Love Lucy was actually titled The Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz Show when it first premiered, but was later changed to I Love Lucy to reflect the strong fan base that the show had developed. The new title also better reflected the focus of the show, which centered on the relationship between Lucy and Ricky. Despite its popularity, I Love Lucy was not a huge financial success for the producers. The production costs for the show were high due to the use of multiple cameras and the fact that the show was filmed in color, which was a relatively new technology at the time. However, the show has continued to be successful in syndication and through DVD and streaming releases, making it a financial success in the long term. Many stories in the show were indeed real-life stories. Many of the show's storylines were inspired by Lucille Ball's real life. The writers of I Love Lucy often drew inspiration from Ball's own experiences and personal life for the show's storylines. For example, the episode where Lucy and Ethel get jobs at a chocolate factory was inspired by Ball's own experience working in a chocolate factory as a young woman. The show had a different opening pattern. The iconic I Love Lucy opening sequence was not filmed until the second season. The show originally had a different opening sequence that featured the cast walking into a theater and taking their seats. The show's reliance on rewrites. I Love Lucy was known for its tight scripts and well-timed jokes, but the truth is that the show often relied on rewrites and improvisation to make the jokes work. The writers and actors would often spend hours rehearsing and refining the scripts before filming, which contributed to the show's success. The use of stand-ins. While the main cast of I Love Lucy was made up of talented actors, the producers sometimes used stand-ins to film certain scenes. For example, a stand-in might be used to film a shot of Lucy running down the street, while the actual actress filmed the close-ups. The show's use of multiple cameras. I Love Lucy was one of the first television shows to use multiple cameras to film scenes, which allowed for more dynamic and varied shots. This was a relatively new technique at the time, and the producers wanted to keep it a secret so that other shows wouldn't copy their style. The role of the live studio audience. While it may seem like the live studio audience was just there to laugh at the jokes, they actually played a much bigger role in the production of I Love Lucy. The producers would often use the audience's reactions to gauge the success of a joke or scene and make changes accordingly. The use of cue cards. Despite the show's reliance on well-written scripts, the actors sometimes used cue cards to help them remember their lines. This was especially common in the early seasons of the show, when the actors were still getting used to the fast-paced nature of television production. The use of body doubles. While Lucille Ball was known for her physical comedy, she sometimes used body doubles to perform the more dangerous or strenuous stunts. For example, a body double might be used to film a scene where Lucy falls off a ladder or gets hit in the face with a pie. The use of special effects. I Love Lucy was known for its clever use of special effects, such as rear projection and matte paintings, to create the illusion of Lucy and Ricky traveling to exotic locations. The producers went to great lengths to keep these techniques a secret in order to maintain the illusion for the viewers. The use of multiple takes. In order to get the perfect shot, the producers of I Love Lucy often filmed multiple takes of each scene. This allowed them to choose the best performance and get the timing just right. However, this process could be time-consuming and exhausting for the actors, who had to constantly rehearse and perform the same scene over and over again. The show's reliance on improvisation. Despite having tight scripts, the actors on I Love Lucy were known for their ability to improvise and ad-lib on set. This allowed them to add their own personal touches to their characters and bring a sense of authenticity to their performances. However, this reliance on improvisation could also lead to tension on the set, and the actors sometimes clash over the direction of a scene or joke. The use of script doctors. In order to keep the show's scripts fresh and funny, the producers of I Love Lucy sometimes hired script doctors to rewrite or punch up the jokes. These writers would come in and work with the show's writing staff to make sure that the jokes were as strong as possible. The use of stock footage. In order to save time and money, the producers of I Love Lucy sometimes used stock footage to fill in certain scenes. For example, they might use footage of a city skyline to represent New York, or footage of a beach to represent Cuba. This helped to create the illusion that Lucy and Ricky were traveling to exotic locations, even though they were often filmed on a soundstage in Hollywood. The show's hidden messages. I Love Lucy was known for its subtle social commentary and hidden messages. For example, the show often addressed issues like gender roles and women's liberation, although these themes were often subtle and not overt. The producers wanted to keep these messages hidden from fans in order to avoid controversy and maintain the show's lighthearted tone. The use of body makeup. In order to achieve the perfect look for their characters, the actors in I Love Lucy sometimes had to use body makeup to cover up blemishes or imperfections. This process could be time-consuming and tedious, but it was necessary in order to achieve the desired effect on the camera. The show advertised a certain product. Like many television shows, I Love Lucy often featured product placements in order to generate additional revenue. The producers tried to keep these placements subtle and integrate them seamlessly into the show so that they wouldn't be too noticeable to viewers. The famous Vitamita Vegemin episode was actually based on a real product. In this episode, Lucy tries to sell a vitamin-enriched tonic called Vitamita Vegemin, which she believes will make her a star. The tonic was actually based on a real product called Vitajex, which was a popular tonic in the 1950s. The show was initially only supposed to be a one-time special, but it was so successful that it turned into a full series. I Love Lucy was originally conceived as a one-hour special that aired on October 15, 1951. But due to its popularity, it was turned into a regular series that premiered on CBS in October of the following year. Many of the show's storylines were inspired by Lucille Ball's real life. The writers of I Love Lucy often drew inspiration from Ball's own experiences and personal life for the show's storylines. For example, the episode where Lucy and Ethel get jobs at a chocolate factory were inspired by Ball's own experience working in a chocolate factory as a young woman. I Love Lucy was the first show to feature a pregnant woman on television. When Lucille Ball became pregnant with her son, Desi Arnaz Jr., the producers decided to incorporate her pregnancy into the show. This was a groundbreaking move, as the pregnancy was not often depicted on television at the time. The episode featuring Lucy's pregnancy, Lucy es enceinte, aired on January 19, 1953, and was a huge rating success. In conclusion, while I Love Lucy was a beloved and hugely successful television show, there were a few things that the producers tried to hide from fans. From the couple's tumultuous marriage to the use of special effects and stand-ins, there were many behind-the-scenes secrets that contributed to the show's success. Even with these secrets, however, I Love Lucy remains a classic and beloved show that continues to entertain audiences to this day. Smoking was also a product promotion. When CBS was having problems finding a sponsor, the sitcom I Love Lucy nearly didn't make it to television. Philip Morris, the world's largest cigarette company, reluctantly agreed to join. As a consequence, every episode heavily highlighted smoking and included the brand name Philip Morris whenever possible. However, there remained one snag. Lucille Ball was originally from Chesterfield. To get over this little problem, she had a stagehand replace the Philip Morris cigarettes with Chesterfields in any packets shown on camera. William Frawley was not the first choice. Lucille Ball was excited to cast Gail Gordon as Fred Mertz, the grumpy neighbor and landlord she'd previously worked with on the radio comedy My Favorite Husband. Gordon, who was already being paid regularly for his work on the radio show Our Miss Brooks, wanted more money than Desilu was willing to give him. William Frawley, a character actor who had met Ball in the 1940s, heard about her impending TV program in the trade journals and called her directly to see if she had a role for him. CBS and Philip Morris were hesitant to employ Frawley because of his well-known drinking problems. The alcoholic Arnaz, however, felt that Frawley's grumpiness was precisely what Fred Mertz needed to come to life. Over lunch at Nick Odell's on Melrose Avenue, he offered Frawley the part and made it clear that he'd be written out of the show if he missed any more days of work than were necessary due to sickness.